The Kelliath drifted silently through the blackness beyond the Orion Rift, its sensors peeling back the darkness in thin slices of data. Lieutenant Marek Vole stared at the flickering holographic display in the command center, brow furrowed as he traced the odd signal. It was faint, erratic, a distress beacon, but one unlike anything the Yllari Exploration Corps had encountered before. Most ships out here were long dead, victims of the Void's cold cruelty, but this was different. Captain Celira Dran paced behind her officers, calm but alert. "Scan it again," she ordered. "We need a clear signature before we risk sending a boarding party. If it's a trap," Vole cut her off, his fingers dancing over the controls. "No trap, Captain. The signal is real. The ship's hull is ancient, damaged but intact. Origin unknown. Life signs detected but faint." Celira's eyes narrowed. "Life signs, at this range? On a ship that old?" "Exactly, ma'am." Vole's voice lowered. "The readings are consistent with cryogenic stasis pods." A murmur spread through the bridge. Cryopods were rare relics, usually found on wrecks of forgotten wars, their occupants long dead. The last official record of such pods was centuries ago, on a ship believed destroyed near the Galactic Rim. Celira's jaw tightened. "Prepare a boarding party. Suit up, but proceed with caution. We don't know what's waiting for us." Within the hour, the Kelliath shuttle docked with the massive derelict. The ancient vessel was enormous, its hull marred by deep gouges, scorch marks, and the scars of countless battles. Its nameplate was missing, stripped clean like a tombstone erased by time. Lieutenant Vole led the boarding team into the airlock, the hiss of decompression echoing ominously. The ship's interior was dark, corridors lined with twisted metal and shattered consoles. The air was stale, thick with the scent of decay and forgotten history. "Keep your eyes open," Vole whispered into his comm. Life signs still registering, but minimal. They moved deeper, following the faintest signals to a sealed chamber. Inside, dozens of cryogenic pods lined the walls, some cracked, some shattered, and a few glowing faintly with dormant power. The team's medics rushed to the nearest active pod, initiating the revival sequence. Minutes stretched like hours as the pods hissed and steamed. Then one by one the lids slid open, revealing gaunt, pale faces beneath frost-covered visors. The survivors were human, at least that was what the database identified them as. Humans. The species lost to myth and nightmares, believed wiped out during the Age of Expansion. Captain Alex Rains was the first to awaken. His eyes snapped open, sharp and alert despite centuries of stasis. He gasped for air, muscles tensing as he assessed his surroundings. His voice was rough but commanding. "Status report. Where are we?" Vole stepped forward cautiously. "You're aboard a Yllari exploration vessel. We found your ship drifting beyond the Orion Rift." Rains's gaze hardened. "Beyond the rift? That means nothing good. Are we under threat?" Before Vole could respond, the ship shuddered violently, throwing the boarding party to the floor. Red lights flared. An alarm blared, a low guttural sound that felt alive. "Power fluctuations," Vole said, scrambling to his feet. "The derelict systems are unstable." Rains rose unsteadily, ignoring the chaos, his eyes locked on the dim corridor ahead. "That was no accident," he said. "They're still out there, something survived." "Who?" Celira's voice crackled over the comm. "Boarding party, report." Vole responded quickly. "Multiple life forms detected. Unknown origin. They're moving." Suddenly shadows shifted at the edge of their vision. Fast, silent, and deadly. The boarding party raised their weapons, hearts pounding. Rains's jaw clenched. Predators. The ancient ship, once a fortress of war, was not empty. It was a prison, and whatever lurked in its depths had been waiting. The boarding party was caught in the middle of a waking nightmare, trapped between the ghosts of humanity's past and a threat older than any star. Celira's voice came steady, but urgent. "Fall back to the Kelliath. We need to secure the ship and figure out what we're dealing with." But Rains shook his head. "No, We don't retreat. Not now. His crew rallied behind him, survivors of a dead world, warriors born of struggle. They had fought to survive the death world called Earth, and now, centuries later, their battle had just begun. The air on the Keliath's medbay was thick with tension, the sterile white walls contrasting sharply with the grim faces of the newly awakened humans. Captain Alex Rains sat upright on a biobed, his piercing gray eyes scanning the Yllari doctors and officers who studied him like an alien specimen. For a moment, silence reigned, a fragile truce as two worlds stared each other down. Lieutenant Marek Vol broke the silence. Captain Rains, can you tell us where you come from? Your ship's logs are indecipherable. Your technology is unlike anything in our database. Rains's jaw tightened. I come from Earth. You call it a Class 15 death world, a place you deemed too dangerous to occupy. The word death world hit the room like a thunderclap. The Yllari officers exchanged uneasy glances. Earth was a legend, a nightmare whispered among starfarers, a world of brutal predators, savage environments, and a species so ruthless they were exiled from civilized space. How did you survive? Asked Dr. Salis, her voice barely hiding disbelief. Rains let out a short, humorless laugh. We didn't survive, we evolved. Earth forged us into warriors. Our biology, our minds, everything was honed for survival in the deadliest conditions imaginable. You think your advanced shields or plasma weapons make you strong? We adapt, we endure, we destroy. Lieutenant Vol's eyes flicked to the other humans, two more soldiers now fully awake, scanning their surroundings with wary intensity. One was a woman, scarred across her cheek, named Mara. The other, a wiry man named Jarek, flexed his fingers like a predator preparing to strike. Your memories. You remember the war? Vol pressed. Rains's face darkened. Every detail. The war that tore the galaxy apart. The betrayal, the exile, the genocide attempts. He paused. We were the enemy, the monsters to be contained or destroyed. So we went dark. We waited. Celera Dran stepped forward, her expression firm. You speak of exile, but why hide for centuries? Why now emerge from stasis? Rains's gaze was cold, unwavering. Because the galaxy thinks we are dead. Because they have grown complacent. Because the enemies who hunted us are vulnerable again. He turned toward the medbay's viewport where the ancient ship's silhouette loomed like a ghost in the void. Our vessel was not just a prison. It was a vault, a weapon, a warning. And now, it's a beacon. A sudden clatter echoed down the hall. The medics tensed as the doors hissed open, revealing a Yllari officer pale and shaken. Captain Dran, he gasped. One of our officers is missing. Last seen near the cargo hold. Rains's eyes sharpened. Missing? During our presence? Yes, we believe. It may be sabotage. Celera's lips tightened. Everyone secure all sections. No one leaves or enters without clearance. The humans exchanged glances. Mara muttered under her breath. They're scared. Good. Vol caught Rains's gaze. Do you think your people had something to do with it? Rains shrugged. I don't know, but this ship is alive in ways you don't understand. We need to find out what's stalking your crew. Celera nodded. We need answers, fast. The boarding party regrouped in the cargo bay, a cavernous chamber cluttered with crates and long-abandoned machinery. The missing officer's personal effects were scattered near the entrance. His datapad shattered, his weapon missing. Look at this, Vol said, holding up a small device that flickered with static energy. A tracker, but it's been tampered with. Rains crouched, inspecting the device with familiarity. Old Earth tech, modified with biotech. It's designed to interface with living organisms. Suddenly, a guttural growl echoed from the shadows. The lights flickered, plunging them into momentary darkness. When the emergency systems rebooted, a shape darted across the far wall, fast, fluid, and terrifying. Contact! Shouted a guard, firing into the gloom. A creature burst forward. a monstrous hybrid of bioengineered muscle and cybernetic enhancements. Its eyes glowed a deep crimson as it lunged, claws ripping through armor. Chaos erupted. The boarding party scrambled, firing plasma bursts, ducking under brutal swipes. Rains grabbed Mara, pulling her back. "This isn't natural," Rains barked. "These creatures, they're our creations," Celira shouted into her comm. "Lock down the lower decks. Prepare for full quarantine." As the beasts retreated into the ship's bowels, the humans and Yllari shared grim looks. The derelict was not just a tomb. It was a laboratory, a hunting ground. The humans were survivors of a war fought in shadows and blood, but the horrors they left behind were still awake. Back on the Keliath, tensions simmered beneath the surface. Some officers whispered of executing the humans to prevent any uprising. Others, unnerved by the ferocity and intelligence of the survivors, argued for cooperation. Rains addressed the Keliath senior staff in the war room. "We are not relics. We are warriors of the Deathworld you feared. If you want peace, you must understand us. If you want war, prepare." Celira studied him, a mixture of awe and fear. "Why should we trust you?" "Because," Rains said, voice low and steady, "if you don't, we will become your nightmare." The room fell silent, the weight of those words sinking deep. The galaxy's quiet age was over. Humanity. The war room aboard the Keliath was bathed in cold blue light. Maps of star systems blinked with warnings, and the crew gathered around a hollow table where Captain Rains stood, his expression grave. The Yllari officers watched silently as he prepared to reveal the truth about Earth, a truth buried beneath layers of myth and fear. Rains's voice was low but commanding. "You call Earth a Class 15 death world, but you don't understand what that really means. It's not just a dangerous planet. It's a crucible." Celira Dran leaned forward. "Explain." Class 15 means environments hostile to most life. Forms: extreme radiation, toxic atmospheres, apex predators that could tear down starships. But Earth was never meant to be merely survivable. It was designed by nature itself as a battlefield where only the strongest species would thrive. Rains flicked a gesture, and images bloomed in the air. Lush jungles with predatory creatures far larger and more lethal than any recorded by galactic science. Cities built into jagged cliffs, remnants of ancient human technology buried beneath. Endless layers of dirt and decay. We were the apex species, not because we were the smartest or fastest, but because we adapted to everything. Radiation storms, viral plagues, predators evolved to hunt the hunters. We survived by becoming hunters ourselves, by evolving biologically and technologically to outmatch any threat. Marek Vol's eyes narrowed. "You speak as if Earth was a weapon." "In a way, it was." Rains nodded grimly. Humanity was a product of eons of survival, shaped into living weapons. But the galaxy didn't want weapons. They wanted control. When humans expanded beyond Earth's orbit, they were seen as uncontrollable, a threat to galactic order. Celira's voice was sharp. "That's why you were exiled?" "Not just exiled," Rains said. "Hunted. Terra's fall was orchestrated by alliances afraid of our power. They waged wars on our colonies, released bioweapons that shattered entire ecosystems, turned friend against friend. We were pushed back, pushed underground, pushed into stasis to disappear from their records." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. "But we never died. We survived in pockets and shadows. We adapted and we prepared. This ship," he gestured toward the ghostly silhouette visible through the viewport, "was a last refuge and a vault. A repository of knowledge, weapons, and secrets designed to survive the end of an age." Celira swallowed hard. "What kind of weapons?" Rains's eyes darkened. "Weapons that don't just destroy ships or armies, but entire planets. Nanotech capable of rewriting DNA, artificial intelligence that learns from every encounter, bioengineered soldiers who can survive." In the vacuum of space, Mara stepped forward, her scarred face unreadable. "And the creatures you unleashed on us in the cargo bay? They're part of that arsenal." They were once our guardians, Rains said quietly. Designed to protect our vessels from boarding, they were bred from the deadliest predators on Earth, enhanced with technology to make them perfect hunters. They survive without food, without rest. They think, but only to kill. The room grew colder still. Vol swallowed. Why tell us this now? Why not keep it secret? Because secrets like these don't stay buried forever. Rains looked toward the holotable, where data streams flickered with rising signals. We detected activity in forgotten colonies, automated factories awakening, sleeper ships stirring in deep space. The galaxy's silence is breaking. Salira's voice was steady, but filled with urgency. What do you want from us? An alliance, Rains said, simply, not out of trust but necessity. If the powers that betrayed us still hunt in the shadows, if war is coming again, we will need allies. Otherwise, we will fight alone, and the galaxy will burn. A sharp beep interrupted them. Vol tapped a control, bringing up a new alert. Multiple unidentified contacts approaching at high velocity. Unknown ships, Vol said, alarm rising. They're closing fast, weapon signatures active. Salira grabbed the comm panel. All hands, prepare for contact. Shields up, weapons ready. Rains's voice was calm, but his eyes were steel. Then it begins. Outside the Keliath, sleek ships streaked through the void, warships of the hegemony's elite fleet. They fired warning shots at the ghost ship, demanding its surrender. But the ancient vessel responded with a pulse that disabled their targeting arrays. Inside, the Keliath's crew scrambled to respond. The humans moved with a fluid efficiency born of instinct and training, their biology and tactics unlike anything the Yllari had seen. The battle was swift and brutal. The old warship's hidden weapon systems activated, long-range nanobot swarms that disintegrated enemy hulls from the inside out, biomechanical turrets that adapted to incoming fire, and automated drones shaped like Earth's ancient predators, striking fear into the enemy's ranks. Salira watched, awestruck and terrified. What are they doing? How is this possible? Rains's voice was grim. We are the legacy of a Deathworld. The galaxy forgot us, but we never forgot ourselves. When the enemy fleet retreated, crippled and confused, the Keliath crew gathered again. The truth was undeniable. Humanity was not just surviving, they were awakening. And with them, a power that could shatter the fragile peace of the galaxy. Salira turned to Rains. If what you say is true, what happens next? Rains's eyes gleamed with cold fire. Then we prepare, because the galaxy's reckoning has just begun. The Keliath hummed with unrest. Captain Salira Dran stood at the center of the command bridge, eyes flicking between holographic displays and her officers. The victory against the attacking fleet was still fresh, but the cost was evident. Damage to their shields, wounded crew, and fractured trust. The humans' ferocity had saved them, but it also sparked fear. The room was thick with tension. Officers whispered behind closed doors, debating what to do about the unpredictable humans aboard. Some called for immediate containment, even execution. Others argued for cautious diplomacy, convinced that the humans might be the key to surviving the coming storm. Salira's comm crackled. Bridge to Captain Rains. The human leader's voice came over the line, calm, authoritative. Captain Dran, I request a meeting with your senior staff. There are matters that require immediate discussion. Salira nodded. Granted. Send the location. Moments later, Rains entered the war room. His presence commanded attention, scarred, composed every inch a soldier molded by Earth's savage crucible. He addressed the gathered officers without preamble. Our ship is waking, Rains began. Systems long dormant are activating. Weapons, defenses, even the AI that governs this vessel are coming online. Vol interjected. But the AI is old, dangerously unpredictable. We've seen erratic behavior already. It locked down sections, powered engines without command. Rains's gaze hardened. That is not malfunction, that is strategy. Salira frowned. Strategy for what? To escape, Rains said simply. Our enemies hunt us still. The Keliath's original course was a one-way ticket to oblivion, a prison sentence. But now, with systems reactivating, the ship plots a course away from your fleet, away from this sector. Murmurs erupted. Solera's voice rose over the noise. We cannot allow that. Rains's eyes bore into hers. Then stop me. Tensions cracked like thunder. Divisions split the crew. The Yalari officers formed two factions, those loyal to Solera's command, insisting on strict control and quarantine of the humans, and others who saw in Rains a new hope, a chance to harness the humans' power before it slipped beyond reach. A small but determined group of officers approached Rains in secret. If you want to lead, you need allies, whispered one. We can help. Rains smiled thinly. We don't need allies who plan to betray us. But the seed was planted. Whispers of defection, sabotage, and conspiracy began circulating through the corridors. Meanwhile, Mara and Jarek patrolled the ship's lower decks, silent as shadows. Their eyes glinted with cold calculation as they moved past chambers filled with dormant biomechanical creatures, the ship's deadly guardians. Mara touched a console and the ship shuddered, lights flickering. They think they can contain us. Jarek nodded. Containment breeds rebellion. They shared a look, warriors bound by a ruthless survival instinct. We'll show them what it means to fight a Deathworld survivor. Back on the bridge, chaos erupted when a sudden explosion rocked the ship. An alarm blared. Multiple breaches reported in engineering and cargo bays. Solera's voice was icy. Security teams, respond immediately. Contain any intruders. Vol and a squad raced toward the blast site. They found twisted metal scorch marks and a chilling scene. One of the Yalari officers was unconscious, blood trailing down the corridor. Nearby, the weapon lockers were emptied. Their plasma rifles, missing. Sabotage, Vol muttered, scanning for traces. Rains appeared beside him, eyes cold. The humans have their own plans. You must decide where your loyalty lies. Vol hesitated, torn. We're supposed to be allies. Rains's smile was bitter. Allies? The galaxy doesn't do alliances. It does survival. Solera convened. An emergency meeting. Enough, she demanded. This ship is ours, not theirs. Her words were met with silence, then murmurs of dissent. Even some of her most trusted officers avoided eye contact. The humans had gained momentum. Rains's voice rose in the war room, rallying those who listened. We did not survive a Deathworld to bow before fear and chains. We are not prisoners. We are predators. And the Keliath is our hunting ground. His words ignited something primal among his followers. They began to mobilize, quietly arming themselves, preparing for what would come next. Meanwhile, deep in the ship's bowels, the biomechanical creatures stirred with a low growl. The AI, once dormant, spoke in fragmented, synthetic whispers. Awaken, protect, kill. A shadow moved, a blend of flesh and metal, eyes glowing with ancient rage. The ship was no longer just a vessel. It was alive, and it hungered. Solera stood on the bridge, staring into the swirling abyss outside. The fragile peace on board was shattered. Command was fractured. The humans were no longer just survivors. They were a force poised to reclaim their legacy. Comm crackled. Captain Rains requests your presence on the bridge. She took a deep breath and nodded. The war for the ship and the galaxy's future had just begun. The Keliath's bridge was a storm of conflicting orders and rising fear. Captain Solera Dran stepped through the sliding doors, her expression set with grim determination. At the center stood Captain Alex Rains, flanked by Mara and Jarek, his most trusted lieutenants. The air crackled with tension, thick enough to cut with a plasma blade. Why call me here, Rains? Solera demanded, eyes sharp. Rains met her gaze without flinching. Because the time for half measures is over. This ship is no longer a prison, it's a weapon, and it's ready. Solera's jaw clenched. You want to take command? No. Rains shook his head slowly. I want us to survive. But survival means breaking the chains that bind us. He gestured to the tactical displays where the ship's systems glowed with new life. The AI is fully operational now. Our guardians are awake. We have the power to escape this sector and fight back against those who hunted us to extinction. Or to destroy everything in our path, Salira said coldly. Rains's eyes flickered. If that's what it takes. Below decks, the tension exploded into violence. Yulari security teams moved to disarm the humans, but Mara and Jarek led a swift counterstrike. Plasma bolts lit the dim corridors, echoing with the sound of heavy combat boots and shouts in strange accents. The ship's halls, once silent and dead, now thrummed with chaos. In the midst of the firefight, a warning blared through the ship. Biomechanical guardians were deploying. The terrifying creatures from Earth's dark past and future prowled the corridors, hunting indiscriminately. Lieutenant Vole found himself pinned behind a bulkhead, plasma weapon crackling as a monstrous hybrid predator lunged. He fired blindly, but the creature vanished into the shadows. We need a plan, he shouted into his comm. Hold your ground, came Salira's voice, steady but strained. Rains and I are working on regaining control of the AI. On the bridge, the two captains fought a battle of wills. Rains reached out to the ship's AI core, a swirling mass of bioluminescent tendrils and circuitry. We're no longer prisoners, he told it. We are its masters now. Protect us. Guide us. The AI pulsed, responding with an eerie, resonant hum. Command accepted. Defensive. Protocols activated. Salira stared at the AI interface, unease twisting in her gut. And what about the collateral damage, the crew? Rains's face hardened. The crew that survives will be stronger. The rest are casualties of evolution. The cold logic of a Deathworld warrior clashed with Salira's values as a protector of her people. But deep down she knew the truth. There was no room for mercy in the void of space. As the AI's influence spread, the Keliath began to transform. Corridors sealed themselves behind energy barriers. Automated turrets emerged from the walls, firing on any who dared resist. The biomechanical creatures prowled with terrifying efficiency, their growls echoing through the ship's steel veins. Rains and his loyalists secured key stations, harnessing the ship's weapon systems, plasma cannons, nanobot swarms, and gravity traps. They prepared to break the blockade and disappear into the black. Salira gathered the remaining loyal officers. We have two choices: surrender to the humans and their ancient warship, or fight for control. Vole's voice was grim but resolute. Then we fight. The battle for the Keliath erupted anew, but this time with higher stakes. Plasma fire tore through corridors, echoing with screams and orders shouted in fear and fury. Mara led a squad deep into the engineering decks, planting EMP charges to disable enemy systems. Jarek, meanwhile, coordinated defense against boarding parties attempting to retake control panels. His movements were swift and brutal, honed by a lifetime on Earth's savage battlefields. Rains moved between command posts, a dark figure of determination, issuing orders and rallying his people. Salira faced him on the bridge once more. This ends now. Surrender, and we can find a way forward together. Rains's voice was steel. We don't surrender to extinction. The ship surged forward, engines roaring as the Keliath broke free from the hegemony's blockade. The ancient warship had awoken from its slumber, and humanity was no longer a forgotten myth. Outside the viewport, stars blurred as they slipped through hyperspace. But the peace was temporary. Rains turned to Salira. This war is far from over. Our enemies still hunt us, and now they'll come for you too. Salira's eyes hardened. Then we stand together, Deathworld or not. The Keliathi sped into the void, a beacon of ancient wrath and new hope. Humanity's reckoning had begun. The Keliath hummed through hyperspace, a leviathan awakened after centuries of slumber. Stars blurred into streaks of light outside the viewport, but inside the tension was palpable. Captain Salira Dran stood beside Alex Rains, her gaze fixed on the starfield ahead. Despite the temporary truce, unease lingered between them. Oh, fragile bond forged by necessity rather than trust. Rains broke the silence. We've bought time, but our enemies will not wait. Celira nodded. The hegemony will regroup, and soon. The war room's holotable flickered to life, displaying the scattered remnants of the hegemony fleet retreating from the blockade. Yet the data showed something far more ominous. Multiple unidentified vessels moving rapidly through the outer systems, their signatures masked. Scout reports, Vol announced grimly from his station. We're not alone. Something bigger is coming. Rains's eyes darkened. Old foes. Those who believed we were extinct are preparing their final strike. Celira clenched her fists. Then we must prepare. Below decks, Mara and Jarek led efforts to reinforce the ship's defenses. The biomechanical guardians prowled the halls, their growls a constant reminder of the lethal legacy humanity carried. Mara's scarred face was set in grim determination, as she oversaw the integration of ancient Earth weaponry with Yulari tech. We can't fight this war with old tactics, she said. Our enemies won't expect what we've become. Jarek nodded. Deathworld survivors don't just survive, we dominate. Meanwhile, tensions simmered among the Keliath's crew. Some Yulari officers still eyed the humans with suspicion, whispering of mutiny and betrayal. Celira struggled to maintain order, balancing diplomacy and discipline. Her leadership was tested daily by the fragile alliance's cracks. During a quiet moment, Celira found herself alone with Rains in the observation deck gazing at the swirling cosmos. Why did you fight so hard to survive? She asked quietly. Rains's eyes reflected distant stars. Because giving up means death, not just of the body, but of everything we are. Our strength, our will, humanity's fire. Celira's voice softened. And what if that fire consumes everything else? He smiled faintly. Then it was meant to burn. Suddenly alarms blared. Incoming fleet, Vol reported urgently. Not the hegemony. These ships bear the mark of the Confederation, a rival faction bent on claiming the Deathworld's secrets. The Keliath's crew sprang into action. Rains addressed the bridge. This is our war now. We fight for survival, for legacy. Celira nodded. Prepare for battle. The enemy fleet materialized from hyperspace. A shadowy armada, sleek and deadly. They fired first, plasma and missile salvos lighting up space as the Keliath's shields flared. The battle was brutal. The ancient ship unleashed its full fury. Nanobot swarms devoured enemy hulls, biomechanical predators struck from the shadows, and plasma cannons tore through armadas. The humans fought with primal ferocity, their tactics blending centuries of Earth warfare with advanced tech. Yet the Confederation fleet was relentless, pressing harder with coordinated strikes and boarding attempts. In the chaos, Mara led a squad to repel boarders attempting to breach the command center. Her movements were a blur of lethal precision, a dance of survival honed by Earth's savage crucible. Jarek coordinated counterattacks from the engineering decks, rallying Yulari and human soldiers alike. Rains fought alongside them, every action, a testament to humanity's will to endure. Amid the battle, Celira's comm crackled with an urgent message from a scout ship. Captain Dran, we've detected a second fleet. They're moving fast. Unknown origin, heavy armaments. Celira's heart pounded. How many ships? Too many. They're converging on our location. Rains's face hardened. We're surrounded. Celira took a deep breath. Then, we make our stand. The Keliath's AI surged with power, activating previously dormant systems. Defensive turrets emerged. Gravity fields distorted space around the ship, and the biomechanical guardians multiplied, their snarls echoing like thunder. The ship became a fortress, a bastion of humanity's legacy against overwhelming odds. As enemy fleets closed in, Celira and Rains shared a look, an unspoken agreement forged in fire. This was no longer just a fight for survival. It was a battle for the soul of a galaxy that had tried to erase humanity, and they would not go quietly into the void. The Keliath shuddered under the weight of a relentless barrage. Outside the viewport, enemy warships formed a deadly ring, their plasma cannons painting the void with lethal strokes of blue and green fire. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath as the ancient Deathworld vessel braced for what could be its final battle. Inside, the air was thick with tension. Captain Selira Dran's hands clenched the edge of the command console. Her eyes burned with fierce resolve, but a shadow of doubt flickered within. "We can't hold them much longer," Foal warned from the tactical station, fingers flying over controls as he directed defensive fire. "Shields are faltering. Hull, integrity at 67% and dropping." Rain stood beside her, voice steady as steel. "We fight through it. We don't have a choice." Selira turned to him, searching his eyes. "And if we fail, then we die on our feet. Not as prisoners," he said grimly. "The Kelioth is more than a ship. It's a legacy, and that legacy demands a reckoning." Down in the engineering decks, Mara and Jarek coordinated the last-ditch efforts to keep the ship's core stable. Sparks flew from damaged conduits, and the smell of burnt ozone filled the corridors. "We need to reroute power to the main reactors," Mara said urgently. "If we lose those, the whole ship will be dead in space." Jarek's jaw tightened. "I'll cover you. Get it done." As Mara disappeared into the maze of machinery, Jarek took up a defensive position, plasma rifle blazing at incoming enemy drones swarming the lower decks. Back on the bridge, a new alert shattered the grim routine. An enemy boarding party had breached the outer hull near the cargo bays. The biomechanical guardians responded instantly, their growls echoing through the ship as they engaged the intruders with brutal efficiency. Selira's comm buzzed. "Captain Rains, we're losing control of several key sectors. We'll fight for every inch," Rains said, "but we may need to consider desperate measures." Selira's heart pounded. "What do you mean?" Rains's voice was low, almost a whisper. "The ship's core, its AI has a failsafe. It can initiate a system-wide purge, sacrifice parts of the ship to save the whole. But it's a gamble. We might lose valuable resources, or people." Selira hesitated. "Are you willing to make that call?" He met her gaze. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes to survive." The tension on the bridge was broken by a sudden jolt. The Kelioth rocked violently as an explosion tore through the starboard side. Alarms screamed, lights flickered, and the AI's voice echoed through the corridors in a cold, mechanical tone. "Containment breach detected. Initiating lockdown." Energy barriers slammed down, isolating sections of the ship. Some crew members were trapped, their desperate calls for help fading into static. Selira clenched her fists. "No more sacrifices." Rains's expression darkened. "Sometimes survival demands sacrifice." In the chaos, Vol intercepted a coded message from the Confederation fleet commanders. It revealed a chilling plan. A coordinated strike using an experimental weapon capable of disabling the Kelioth's AI core, rendering the ship helpless. "We have to act fast," Vol said, voice tense. "If they hit the core, it's over." Selira nodded sharply. "Prepare a team. Rains, Mara, Jarek. You're leading the counterstrike." Rains gave a curt nod. "We'll make sure they don't get that far." Deep inside the labyrinthine corridors, the team moved with lethal precision. The biomechanical guardians cleared a path, their primal roars echoing as they tore through enemy combatants. Mara's hand hovered over a control panel, fingers dancing as she hacked into the ship's defense grid. "We're almost there," she whispered. Suddenly, the corridor ahead erupted in a hail of plasma fire. Enemy soldiers poured in, relentless and vicious. Jarek roared a challenge, returning fire with brutal efficiency. "They want to fight? They've got one." The battle raged, every step forward a testament to the crew's unyielding will. At last, they reached the AI core chamber. The heart of the Keliothi pulsed with eerie blue light, tendrils of data streaming like veins of energy. Rains stepped forward, connecting a device to the core's mainframe. Initiating countermeasures to block the weapon's signal. Mara monitored the data stream. "It's working, but the enemy's disrupting us. We need more time." Explosions rocked the ship as the fight spilled into the chamber. The team held their ground, fighting off waves of attackers desperate to sever the Keliath's lifeline. Back on the bridge, Salira faced the daunting choice: the AI's purge. System was ready to activate automatically if the core was compromised. Her comm buzzed. "Captain, you must decide. Initiate the purge or risk total shutdown." Salira's voice was steady but resolute. "Hold the purge. We're not giving up this ship. Not yet." The Keliath groaned under the strain, but its crew's resolve was unbroken. In the final moments of the battle, Rains's team succeeded in deploying the countermeasures, blocking the Confederation's weapon just as it fired. The Keliath's AI surged with renewed strength, pushing back against the enemy's assault. Outside, the enemy fleet faltered, their weapon systems disrupted, and their formations breaking. Salira exhaled, relief mingling with exhaustion. "We held the heart of the storm." Rains gave a rare, genuine smile. "And we're still breathing. The legacy of the Deathworld lives on." As the battered Keliath limped away from the battlefield, its crew tended to the wounded and mourned the fallen. The galaxy had glimpsed the fury of humanity reborn, ancient, relentless, and unyielding. But even as they escaped, Salira knew this was only the beginning. The war for survival, for legacy, was far from over. The Keliath had drifted through the void, scarred but unbroken. Outside the viewport, distant stars glittered like silent witnesses to the horrors and heroism within. The battle was over, for now. The ship's systems hummed steadily. Patchwork, repairs working against time and damage. Captain Salira Dran stood at the command console, her gaze distant. Around her, the crew moved with quiet purpose, tending to the wounded, repairing shattered panels, and keeping watch for the next threat. The uneasy alliance forged in fire had survived its greatest test. Rains approached quietly, his steps measured. "You fought well," he said simply. Salira turned, a faint smile touching her lips. "So did you." He studied her face, shadows of the past and hopes for the future reflected in his eyes. "This ship, it's more than metal and circuits, it's a symbol, a legacy of those who survived the worst worlds and refused to die." Salira nodded. "A legacy we carry forward, together." The crew gathered in the mess hall, a rare moment of respite. The air was thick with stories, some of loss, others of defiance. Mara sat nearby, her gaze steady as she listened to a Yalari officer recount tales of the battle. "Your people's resilience," the officer said, "is unlike anything I've seen. Earth must be a true death world." Mara's eyes darkened, with memory. "It's not just the planet. It's the fire in those who live there, the will to survive." Jarek nodded, raising a tankard. "We're that fire." In the days that followed, Salira and Rains worked tirelessly to rebuild trust and strengthen their fragile alliance. Plans were made to chart a new course, a path away from the reach of old enemies and toward new horizons. Salira studied star charts, tracing routes through unclaimed space. "We can't keep running," she said. "We need a home." Rains placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then we find one worthy of our people, a place where humanity's fire can burn free." But peace was a fragile thing. Reports came in of the hegemony rallying its forces, of new factions seeking the Keliath's ancient power. The galaxy was vast and unforgiving. Yet within the ship's hull a new spirit stirred, one born of hardship and bloodshed, but also hope. Salira stood before the crew in the central hall, her voice clear and unwavering. "We survived worlds designed to kill us. We faced extinction and rose. This ship, this legacy, is our chance to forge a future, not just for ourselves, but for all who will come after." Applause rippled through the crowd, a chorus of resolve and unity. Later, Rains visited the ship's AI core. The bioluminescent tendrils pulsed softly. A silent guardian awakened from a long slumber. "You're alive," he murmured. The AI responded with a ripple of light. "Alive. Evolving. Protecting." Rains smiled. "Good. We'll need you." As the Keliatha set course for the unknown, its crew ready to face whatever came next, Salira allowed herself a rare moment of reflection. The ship had been a prison, a tomb, and a battleground, but it was also a cradle of survival, strength, and rebirth. The legacy of the Deathworld was no longer a curse. It was a promise that humanity, no matter how battered or broken, would endure, and in the endless darkness of space, that fire would never go out.